on top. Now tourists come and stare at us. Blow bubbles with their gum. Take photographs of fun. Have fun.
The Washington Employment Lawyers Association and the state of the law for employees in Washington would be very different today if Jeff Needle was not a helmsman in steering the efforts on behalf of employees.
He's adamant about equality and equal rights and civil rights. He's like tenacious. He doesn't give up.
Jeff has made himself available at virtually any time, day or night.
He seems to be so in love with the area of law and with supporting employee rights. It's kind of incredible.
I have not one hero, but two heroes that I'd like to talk about. Margie Harris and Kathy Butler, a dynamic duo out of Houston, Texas. They've been courageous warriors on the plaintiff's employment front for many years. They started their practice 24 years ago on April Fool's Day. As many of you already know, they're always encouraging, always upbeat, ready to lend a helping hand to any poor soul. Like a plaintiff's attorney, my two heroes, Margie Harris, Kathy Butler.
My kudos go to John Griffin and Kathy Butler. They have been on a fantastic quest for justice in the workplace. I've had the pleasure of being their local counsel in several cases and witnessed their passion and their talent. This is a pool of lawyers that we all should be proud of, and it's been a pleasure and an inspiration to have them part of the NELA team.
My NELA champion is my business partner and very dear friend, Richard Shaw. He's my NELA champion because he embodies all the traits that make for an effective employee rights advocate. He's compassionate and cares deeply about his clients. He's always looking for ways to advance the law for workers. He's smart, creative, and thoughtful. And finally, on a more personal note, Rich is my NELA champion because from the time we started working together in 1993, he's always been concerned with supporting, developing, and fostering my career as an employee rights advocate and has been instrumental in my success.
Hello, my name is Kenny Haynes, and I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and my NELA hero is my partner and sister, Alicia Haynes. She genuinely cares about the clients that we represent. In a sense, they've become members of the family.
She's taught me how to give a voice to people who don't have one, who've been left in just horrible positions.
She has this great, tenacious attitude as a litigator, being able to turn some of the worst of facts into some of the best closing arguments that you've ever heard.
She's just fearless in the way she is after justice and pursuing it no matter what the cost. And basically does it with grace and composure, and is great at teaching me how to do that.
I'm Marguerite Longoria, and I'm a member of NELA's executive board. And my NELA champion is Bruce Fredrickson. I first met Bruce at a NELA lobby day when he led the charge to pass the Civil Rights Tax Relief Act. He truly embodies NELA's initiative to advance equality and justice in the American workplace, and Bruce is my NELA champion.
It's really hard to narrow it down to one or a few people, but my champions have always been Eric Schnapper, because he is so incredibly bright and funny and has really done more for employee rights by his Supreme Court advocacy than anybody. And Bruce Fredrickson, because he is so energetic and funny and won some really, really big cases.
When Ed and I talked about forming a firm in late 2001, we thought we could go about being the best of our kind in the area.
I think that we look at at what we do as more than just an employee rights issue or a civil rights issue. I think we look at it as a human rights issue.
I have the power and the resources of a firm that really means what it says. We stand behind our plaintiff employee clients, fight for them every day, and work as a team to get the best results that we possibly can for our clients.
We're all dedicated to exactly the same cause, and that cause is to protect some of the most fundamental rights that we have in this country. The right to advance and grow in one's career without being judged based on the color of your skin, where you happen to be born, your gender.
Things have come a long way in the United States in the last 50 years, and we think we're a small part of that, and we think we're fighting the good fight.
Here in Colorado, Bob Chular really is our NELA champion.
He's amazing. When I first started practicing plaintiff's employment law, Bob started sending me cases, really good cases, and I barely knew him, and I called him just to say, why are you sending me these great cases? And he said, because it's what I do for all the lawyers that start out practicing plaintiff's employment law.
He helped explain how COLTAF accounts work. He helped with other things in making that transition possible as I left his firm. And it was night and day compared to the client that I was representing and the way this client's former employer was treating him.
He's just one of the most centered and ethical people I know. He cares very much about people, about employees, and about employee rights.
My NELA champion is Jeanette Johnson. I first met Jeanette, I think, in 1989 or 1990, and she had founded the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter of NELA. She invited me to a meeting which took place at a bar in Dallas called the Angry Dog, which, you know, in hindsight, is kind of a good name for a bar where NELA members meet. Jeanette, like a lot of us, has had feasts and famines in her practice, but has always stuck with it and always hung in there, representing workers and taking on their causes as her own. I admire her. She's been a great inspiration to me in my career.
The person that I think of when I think of NELA in terms of its champions is a person that I am glad to call a good friend, and that is Marianne Sadeh. When I first met her back in the 90s, I didn't really realize the sense of her commitment to the client. She is probably the first person I met who got a 7-figure verdict in an employment discrimination case. To win a big case like that is one thing, but to understand the pain of the client when there's a loss is something I think is, having experienced both those things, something much more powerful.
On behalf of Gillespie, Rosen, and Watzke here in Dallas, Texas, we want to say thank you to Hal Gillespie, Yona Rosen, and David Watzke. They're our NELA champions. And as lawyers here at GRW, we want to thank them for them mentoring us so we can do more of this NELA work.
My name is Melissa Pierre-Louis. I'm an associate at Alton & Golden, and I'm also co-chair of NELA's Lawyers of Color Committee. My NELA champion is Wayne Alton, and he's my NELA champion for several reasons. He was one of the founding members of NELA, and he served on that board for about over 11 years. And he also started the New York NELA affiliate, and he served as president of that organization for about 15 years. Wayne Alton is my NELA champion because he has dedicated his entire practice, his time, and his effort to workplace fairness.
For my nominee, it was a pretty easy call. I would nominate Jim Castor, a member of the board of NELA and a very active member of NELA. I hired Jim right basically out of law school, and we've been partners ever since. It's the kind of tenacity the guy has. And so I'm very proud of him as my nominee.
My workplace champion is Joe Garrison of New Haven, Connecticut. Joe, in addition to being a great boss, has been practicing employment law for over 35 years. And you can tell that he genuinely cares about his clients and the work that he does. Joe has also been on the cutting edge of some of the more important Connecticut cases. And I think if I can practice just half as well as Joe does, I will have accomplished my goal.
It'd be hard to put into words exactly how I feel about my personal NELA champion, Paige Fiddler, who also is my law partner. Paige has done so much for me personally and professionally over the years.
In addition to the many ways Paige inspires me as a lawyer, she also inspires me by being a living example that you can be both a great lawyer and a great mom.
Not only does she tell me how to be the best advocate I can be, she shows me.
I'm learning from one of the absolute best and most respected employment plaintiffs' attorneys throughout the nation.
And I couldn't think of a better or more perfect example of a NELA champion.
But the person I want to speak about today is Murray Schwartz, my good friend from New York City. Murray is a hero to me because of the guy that he is, the trial lawyer that he is, the mentor that he is. All of these things make Murray a NELA champion in my mind, and someone that inspires me every day.
My NELA champions are Sandy Radke, David Lee, and Brian East. As a solo attorney, I need people who I can reach out to for help and to talk about cases, and each of these people have been there for me to do this. Thank you to each of them for allowing me to be a better attorney, which is what NELA is all about.
Shelley Leinhardt, the executive director of NELA New York for 17 years, passed away. During the time that Shelley was executive director, NELA New York's membership more than doubled. Our financial condition improved dramatically. Our legal referral service became a self-sustaining venture, and our educational programs were consistently excellent and well attended. Shelley was the glue that held us together all these years. More than anything, Shelley reflected the warmth of NELA New York. She was deeply committed not only to our organization, but also to our members individually. For some of us, she was more than a professional colleague. She was a dear friend. On a personal level, she enriched our lives. We will miss her, both professionally and personally. At NELA New York, we honor Shelley Leinhardt as our champion. We will never forget her.
I'm here to talk about one of my NELA heroes, David Rappaport. David was one of the humblest, most approachable of our members. He was always ready with advice from his wealth of practical experience as well as his prodigious learning in the law.
I was very impressed by everything he said. I mean, his approach to analyzing law.
He mentored people, and he took his role as a mentor so seriously. He was always willing to share his work product, his wealth of knowledge, his experiences, his ideas. He was a really special attorney and mentor and friend.
It was an honor to know him and to work with him, and I'm proud to call him one of my heroes.
It was an easy decision for us Tennesseans to choose Professor Belton as our NELA champion because he's our founding father and a true civil rights pioneer. It is with very heavy heart that we tell you about Professor Belton because he passed away just a couple of months ago while still active and advocating for equality and justice in the American workplace.
Bob was the first African American to be granted tenure at Vanderbilt Law School. There he taught me and countless others employment discrimination law. He received his law degree the same year that Title VII became effective. He was assistant counsel to the NAACP's Legal Defense Fund, and he was plaintiff's counsel in 2 early, groundbreaking civil rights cases before the Supreme Court.
We're pleased that Bob was able to see the seeds he planted sprout and grow, and as NELA continues to grow, we'll use our strength as an organization to advocate for equality and justice in the American workplace in a way that would make Professor Belton proud.
I want to dedicate this NELA Champion video to all of you, the 3,000 plus individual and affiliate members all across this country working tirelessly, even in the face of formidable obstacles, to advance and protect the rights of workers everywhere. You all inspire me each and every day in my practice, because knowing that I'm part of a nationwide effort and conspiracy to protect and advance the rights of workers and achieve equality and justice in the workplace keeps me going, especially on the more challenging days when the obstacles seem overwhelming. I am so proud to be a member of NELA, of the NELA family, and indeed it is a privilege and an honor to be the president of this very wonderful organization. So here's to each and every one of you, because in my view, we are all champions.